I started realizing that it was a really unhealthy environment. And I had two little girls at the time. They were 1 and 3. And it was about 2008. And I remember going to my husband at the time and asking him if he would be open to going to therapy with me. And, it was all my fault and all my issues. And so he encouraged me to go to therapy to work on myself. And about an hour into my therapy session, and she got up, walked across the room, brought back a DSM-5, opened it up, and had me read a segment that she highlighted with her finger, and it was narcissistic personality disorder. And that started me off on a path of discovery and a lot of light bulbs popping on full brightness and shedding light on what I had been through in this marriage. And it was shortly after that I found myself in the family court system, and very naive, believing that in the best interest of the child was all, the goal for all of us, the professionals, um, the parents. And I found out that as difficult as it is to be married to a narcissist, going through a divorce or a child custody battle is a chapter that you cannot truly prepare someone for. It's been quite a journey.
So, I mean, you so lucky. Well, I wouldn't say lucky, but you are at a stage now where you're blessed, where your story has come full circle, and kind of at this time come to completion. Do you
Yes.
want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So when I started in the family court system, it was 2009. Due to severe financial abuse, control that I suffered during my marriage, um, I walked into the court system with less than $200 to my name. I ended up in the women's shelter. I ended up having to represent myself in family court. So essentially, I was acting as my own attorney, because I couldn't afford one. And my ex-husband was able to afford attorneys. One of the things I quickly discovered is that the family court system is a really uneven playing field when you are dealing with an abuser, when it's about power and control and winning, and then their target is usually the opposite of themselves. So, and usually women who are very conflict avoidant by nature. And so you end up in court looking like a deer in headlights. And I know that is a really good descriptor of where I found myself. Um, so my journey, it was the equivalent of World War III. Um, I was in court 13 times in 1 year alone. It became a full-time job, and it was so confusing to me because this was a man who had never wanted anything to do with the family life. Our children didn't have a bond with our daughters. And so I assumed naively that there would be no custody battle, that things would continue the way they had always been, that I would have the children. I assumed he would visit them, that he would have parenting time, but I had no idea that he would fight me for full custody of our kids. And over time, he started off with quite a bit of parenting time. I was naive, believing that just because he had not participated, that the court would keep that as status quo. But what I found out is that they're so overburdened by deadbeat parents that if anyone steps up and says, hey, I want to give this a try, even if it's not for authentic good reasons, they're going to give them a chance. And that was very much the situation in my case. And What I also quickly discovered is that to him, my children were just
Mm.
pawns. They were just weapons. And he would use them, psychologically manipulate them, emotionally abuse them. He knew that the number one way to hurt me was to hurt my kids. And that became a reoccurring theme throughout our entire custody battle. Um, I am one of the lucky ones. And it's odd to say that because I don't feel lucky. What my daughters and I have been through has been an incredible amount of trauma that lasted a full decade. Our battle started in 2009. 2013, we had our second child custody evaluation. For anyone who has not experienced that, it is an incredibly invasive process. Ours took a little over 6 months. They inspect every single area of your life. They subpoena doctors, therapists, teachers. Um, you're under a microscope just as much as the other unhealthy parent. And I was very lucky that our custody evaluator really took the time to investigate what was best for my kids and to listen to my allegations against the other party and actually investigate them. Unfortunately, that's not
Yeah.
typically what happens in the family court system. You've got a lot of professionals who just become really calloused to the issues that they see and hear every day. And you just become a case number or a business transaction. And it's about opening the case and closing it as quickly as they can. So I was very fortunate that we ended up with a good custody evaluator who recommended professional supervised visits on a permanent basis for my ex-husband. And
That's
that was the first step towards really being able to protect my kids. Was 2009 to 2013 was an absolute nightmare. And 2013 was the point where my case started to take a turn. And the unfortunate part of family court is it's a lot of he said, she said, or she said, she said, or he said, he said. And so it takes a long time for them to really gauge who the healthy parent is and who's telling the truth. And that's one of the downsides of the family court system, is that they don't seem to care about perjury. And I think there would be a lot of changes in the court system if they actually leaned in. Credibility is so important in a situation that is, two parties sharing their own stance and perspective. And credibility is so important, especially when you're deciding the fate of a child's life. um, so it was a progression from 2013. 2014, I ended up um, eliminating his parenting time completely. He wasn't even allowed to call our daughters. And then 2019, I went on to terminate his parental rights. And 2020, I'm remarried. My husband adopted my daughters. So we have a happy ending by all accounts, but it's been a journey to get here.
that is a definite journey, and it also feels like you know the courts are so overwhelmed, and it's also like you don't actually know what you're going to get. Like you could, as you say, you were in a situation where somebody was so thorough and they investigated it properly, and then the next person gets someone who just doesn't care about their job and they're not interested. And it's the same thing when it comes to DCFS. It's so tragic.
Absolutely. It is. And, I have the comparison because I went through our initial custody evaluation in 2010, and I had that perspective of a completely inept evaluator who didn't care, who put more weight on parental rights than the safety of my daughters. And so to go through that and just feel so discouraged and hopeless and defeated by the system, and then to have the exact opposite. But you're right, depending on which professional comes onto your case, it can be night and day different, when we're looking at outcomes. And that's whether we're talking about a judge, an evaluator, minors counsel, DCSF, that's a whole separate broken entity. I have, their entire goal is, or mission is supposed to be protecting children. And I have no faith in that system. I know in my case, they were heavily involved, and on 3 different occasions, they deemed him to be a moderate risk, which, what does that even mean? Yet they did nothing to protect my kids. Again, it's an agency where you're a case number, and their goal is to open and shut the case as quickly as they can.
Yeah, it's so sad. It's so sad to see that. And I know, like, when reading your books, I know that it seems like you also have had an ex-husband who presented so well and walked into court and seemed on the very top of the surface that he was capable and loving and all of those things. And that makes it so confusing for a judge or anyone in the court system.
Absolutely. And in my case, my ex-husband, blonde hair, blue-eyed, all-American, guy next door, and he worked in sales and very high-level sales. So his entire livelihood was dependent on selling things to people, convincing people, and he was very, very skilled at that. And a lot of times when someone is going up against a narcissist, like I was, it's not just the narcissist. Usually there's an entire family of dysfunction. And I know in my case, I've often said, if left to his own, I don't believe my custody battle would have lasted as long as it did. But his entire family became a huge part of my battle. I was not up against one person. I was up against an entire team and family of dysfunction. And his mom, they worked in the field of education, so they, had credibility on paper. They got an A+. And I remember reading these declarations that she would submit to the court, and I'm thinking, how is this allowed? This should be about 2 people. Why is this woman inserting herself into my case and, continuing to, make the court lean in a little closer and believe their side of the story, because she was so manipulative and so convincing, which then in turn continued to put my kids in a really dangerous spot. And so you feel like you're in this alternate reality where nothing makes sense. And to anyone who hasn't been through this, you try to explain to them what's happening in family court, and they look at you sideways, and they're kind of scratching their heads going, well, there has to be more to the story. This doesn't make sense. And you're thinking, you're right, nothing. This makes no sense. You're like Alice in Wonderland. And it's a different language that they speak. It's a living nightmare. And I know there are so many people out there walking this journey, and it's such an isolating journey because very few people get it. And so your circle starts to become really small, and it's typically other people who have been through it. And unfortunately, you find that even a lot of mental health professionals don't get it. They're trained when they're learning about narcissism or other cluster B disorders like antisocial personality disorder, the sociopaths, when they're learning about those things, it's the very textbook definition of what that means. But there's really little to no research on how a narcissist affects someone in a marriage, how they affect children in a co-parenting relationship, how they enter and dominate the court system. There's actually a really interesting study that came out about 2 years ago, and it's out of Santa Clara University. And it's talking about narcissism in the court, and how that becomes their stage, and that it, the conflict feeds them, where most divorces, both parties are wanting to get towards resolution so they can move on and start their new chapters. But when you're dealing with a narcissist, this is their feed supply. And they're, the domestic violence during the relationship, it doesn't go away. What we know about domestic violence is it's about power and control.
How
That
excited
doesn't
I was to find out that
magically
they are making children.
disappear. It just transitions into a new form of abuse I refer to as post-separation abuse. But the Santa Clara University study is one of the first things out there that really dives into this topic and gives us solid data and research to show, essentially what the narcissist playbook is when you are in a custody battle with them.
I also think it's so true. There isn't enough out there. Like, people haven't taken the time to do the research, and then when you start to scratch, because it's become also such like a colloquial phrase that people throw around. They don't actually get it, and they don't understand it. They think that you're overreacting, or that you're labeling somebody that you shouldn't be labeling like that.
Right. And I validate that. It is a very overused term and label, and that's the problem in the court system when it comes to getting a diagnosis for these individuals. Even if you are one of the very lucky ones, the rare unicorns of the court system that ends up with a diagnosis on your ex, the reality is when the judge sees that diagnosis, in their mind, they're like, well, the person takes a lot of selfies, probably posts a lot on Instagram, and you're going, no, that is the overused, definition of what narcissism is, but that's truly not what it is. It's an actual personality disorder, but there's so little information out there. And another issue in the family court system, which we could talk about for hours, is the fact that the judges, so many of the judges, so many of the attorneys and professionals are highly narcissistic themselves. So you're appealing to people who are high on that scale to see the problems in front of them. But unfortunately, those problems that they're viewing so closely represent who they are, that in itself is a battle.
That actually is a good point. I didn't actually think of that before. But I also think, like, to actually get a diagnosis in court is that these people are so good at convincing others and getting them to see things their way. Unless you are an unbelievably qualified therapist, you're not going to see that. You're going to buy into their whole world and their whole their view of everything that's going on.
Right. Right. And they, it's almost like they recreate their own reality. And that's why I truly do believe, somebody who is really high on those narcissistic traits or full-blown diagnosable can pass a lie detector test, because they become so skilled. Manipulating is their way of life. Creating this alternate reality that they live in becomes their way of life. And so, the psyche valves that are used by the court system, that wasn't the purpose they were intended for. And so there's a lot of problems in that. And what I continue to be told time and time again by psychologists is that they're actually taught in school to never give that diagnosis. It's very rare that they'll do that. Usually what will happen is you'll get it'll say they have very high traits. Well, that does you absolutely no good. So, because that's not a diagnosis. And so there's lots of problems. So many people come to me and they're desperate. How do I prove that he or she is a narcissist? And I usually tell them, I wouldn't even try. I've been through my entire court battle writing books on the topic, and I've never once used that word in court, in an evaluation, anywhere. For me, it was focusing on the patterns of behavior and how those things affected my children, and less about, the validation of this person as a narcissist can be important to many of us for our healing journey and to make sense of it. But to the court system, it simply doesn't matter. And so I usually tell people I step away from that. I wouldn't even try.
So just two things that have come to mind that I want to ask you about. So one is that to some people it does feel so validating because it kind of makes them not feel like they're crazy. But on the other hand, it's like even when you look at the patterns, you still feel crazy. You still
Right.
feel like you were crazy to be taken in with it. So to label it is not. It doesn't have much of a purpose.
Right, right. No, and that's where, the gaslighting that so many of us experience during the relationship, it leaves us in a fog. It leaves us unable to articulate the issues. And there's different levels of the gaslighting that takes place depending on the type of narcissist or the individual that you were in the relationship with. But it can really take a toll on someone over time because it just, again, it defies logic.
Yeah, and for me, like I would say the big focus is that people should be studying and to working on is like how this actually affects a child from such a young age. I know that it was the beginning of last year already. I did this incredible workshop, and we did a whole week of effect on the child, whether it was you as your own child when you were younger or what it would happen to be with your child. And signs of abuse get implemented in utero. Like a child can be born with all of these symptoms of having an abused parent, which is so sad. Because then they also just let them, continue to go through the court system you were in the court system for 10 years. The effect of that on your children and for anybody else who's out there, it's traumatic.
Right. And the turning point for so many where you're being failed by the court system, it becomes about empowering our kids behind the scenes to be their own voice, their own advocate, and to equip them to go up against, the narcissist. One of the things I used to always say is, if my 6-year-old was being bullied on the playground at school, I would be encouraged to sit down with that child and give them tools and words and empower them to stand up to this bully or to report this bully. But when the bully is a 40-something-year-old adult, you're not allowed to talk to your child, or it's going to be used against you because then you're somehow bad mouthing the other parent. So it's such a fine line to walk. And but it's so critical that when a child does have a parent who is highly narcissistic, that we're teaching them what boundaries are. You can teach them so many valuable lessons that you don't ever have to connect the dots towards their parent. These are lessons that our kids need to learn in general, what boundaries are, what your gut is. There's a story that I've shared. I was standing in line at a donut shop behind this mom and her little girl, and she was probably about kindergarten age. And the little girl, the mom asked her, how many donut holes do you want? And she said 5. And they got closer to the counter, and the little girl said, no, actually, I want 6. And the mom got down on her level and said, your gut told you that 5 was the right number for you. And so we should follow our gut. And I just thought, I want to hug this complete stranger because these are the lessons we need to be teaching our kids to go out into the world, because whether it's their parent or a dysfunctional boss or teacher or whatever it is, there's a lot of toxic people in the world. And so a lot of our time is spent strengthening our kids and teaching them all of the lessons that we didn't learn, which caused us to end up with this type of person in the first place.
So I think that's such a good point. Is that we become so focused on our children and not continuing this abuse cycle. But I also think like it takes a very brave person to do that, and a very courageous person, because when you're stuck in the court system, you're representing yourself, you're a single parent, you're working full time, it all just gets too much and too overwhelming.
Yes.
So do you have like something that you would recommend to somebody who's listening today?
Self-care, and it's so cliche, and and we hear about it and we hear about it, but that is what I found was so important for me. And it could be as easy as, getting up 5 minutes early to meditate, or 5 minutes early to enjoy a cup of coffee alone in the living room, without distractions, because it is absolutely exhausting. My daughters, they're now 13 and 15. No, they are 14 and 16. They just had birthdays. We were talking, and I was playing an old home video, and my daughter said, "Mom, you sounded so tired." Your voice. I sounded, like I was, smoked cigarettes or something, because my voice was so raspy. And to go back in time, I was in survival mode. I was living on fumes and coffee, and it's difficult to go back there in my mind, because I remember what it was like. I was, you know, full time with two really little girls in preschool. I was working a couple of different jobs trying to just provide for us, because I learned very early on that for the narcissist, finances are their biggest button. And when you push that button, they push your button, which is the kids. So I've always said I would, back then, I would rather eat top ramen 3 meals a day than push his financial button and hold him accountable, because it just wasn't worth it for me. So I was working and struggling and in absolute survival mode. My heart goes out to anybody who resonates with this, because it's hard. But you have to keep your own oxygen mask on so that we can show up and be 100% for our kids. And I always share the perspective that I went through. I had a very difficult, chaotic childhood, and I turned out pretty good. And so, for me, it was reminding myself that there was, certain things in my control, and a lot of things that I had absolutely no control over. And how I showed up as a parent, that was, so important for me. And my daughter recently told a story about, Mom, we didn't even know what you were going through back then. And she said, I used to get so frustrated when I would ask you questions about all of it. And your answer to me was always, it's my job to be a parent and it's your job to be a child, and I'll worry about the adult things. You get to go be a kid. And she said, now, looking back, as frustrating as that was to hear, I'm so thankful that you let us just be kids and not worry about adult issues. And, and so for me, it was reminding myself that those things that were out of my control, one of those things was that my daughters were on their own parallel journey, and I had to have faith and believe that what they were going through would serve purpose one day in their lives. And I'll tell you, I've raised two amazing young women who will go out into the world, with boundaries and intuition, and they'll move mountains, and an incredible amount of empathy. So it's been a journey, but there are a lot of positives that have come from it.
It's so wonderful that you're able to say that, and you're able to look at it like that and say there's so many positives that have come from it. I mean, that in itself is such a blessing. So that's pretty amazing.
You
Um,
have to find them. You have to find the, in any situation, what are the lessons? What are, where can I find, make sense of this? Or, that's been a big part of my journey and my healing process.
I think it is important. I know that we've spoken about this on the phone. Like that's like you have to have like for me it has to mean something. It can't just be in vain. There has to be a reason for it, and that's why I love that you're so outspoken about it, and that you're willing to talk to people about it and guide them through this, and show them that there is a way through.
Yeah, and so many people who are going through the court system, they're silenced. They can't speak out about it because it could affect their case. And so, I've committed from day one, I will use my journey and my platform to be a voice for those who aren't able to speak out about the reality and the horrors of the court system. And there are too many to count. It's an incredibly broken system that is not child focused.
So I think that's so sad, and I think even more so today with like everything that's going on, the cases are taking so much longer to get through the system. And I mean, I know I heard of a unrelated divorce situation, but they were going into court, and because it was in March of 2020, they had already postponed it by 6 months, and then was postponed by another almost 10 months, which is just like crazy.
No, the pandemic has made an already broken system even worse. And the all of the issues surrounding the pandemic have given the narcissistic type people, the high conflict individuals, even more ammunition and areas to control. And if you are very following guidelines on the pandemic, they will do the opposite just to spite you. And so it just brings in an increased level of conflict. It's Yeah, my heart is with anyone who is currently navigating the court system. And I do believe, even since my battle started in 2009, which I didn't think it could get any more broken than it was, it's worse now. We've gone backwards in the past 10 years.
That is so sad to hear, but I can completely understand that. I can see just I don't see a way for it, and obviously you are working on this, and that's why I want to bring light to this. Is that I don't, you're either moving forwards or backwards. You're either growing or dying, and that's unfortunate. There's no one. There's very few voices wanting to make change, so it's just like you to make headway. The system is crumbling around you, and you're trying to push through that. So what is that like?
Well, there are some people out there who give me hope. I don't know if I can publicly name them or not, but there are people out there pushing for legislative change, um, doing research to help protect children in these situations. And so, I get behind what they are doing and try to use my platform to amplify their voices, because what it's going to come down to is making legislative change to prioritize child safety. It just seems so logical. Why wouldn't we err on the side of caution when a child is involved? But unfortunately, there's little logic in the court system. And so, it's getting behind the people who are out there doing the work, pounding the pavement. And, unfortunately, a lot of the people that I know who are doing that, it's because they've been failed in the ultimate way by the court. Their children have died as a result of the family court system failing to protect them, when all of the information was there. And it should have been a really easy decision to, err on the side of caution. And so, their fuel, their purpose is their child's legacy, who is no longer with us. And so those are the people I'm getting behind, because we can't keep having these, complete failures of the system.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's so wonderful. That is wonderful to hear. And I also feel like, for me, this the whole family reunification, like,
Mhm.
I know it's a big thing in California and in a few other states. It's just it's ridiculous. Like, some people are not capable or not even interested in being a parent. They only want to use their child as a pawn or as an accessory, um, in their life. So.
Yes, the reunification movement, the alienation movement, which is nothing more than junk science. It's a way for the abuser to flip the tables and avoid taking responsibility for either their lack of bond with the child, which they never cared about until the court process started, or a way for them to flip the tables and avoid accountability for abuse, and abusive behaviors in the family court system. All they have to do is say, "Hey, the other parent's alienating me," and that is one of the reasons why the court system, I believe, has gotten worse over the years. Is that entire movement? It's just, again, you feel like you're in upside down world, and you're going, "Is it me?"
Because
How is this
I'm actually the
making
one
any
that's being
sense?
alienated. I'm the woman. It's like, it's completely crazy. So I want to ask you, about your blog and how that started and how it felt to write it. And
Ah, that's an interesting story. So back in 2011, my court battle had been going on for 2 years. I was so frustrated. I looked at my friend Glenn at the time, who now we're married, and I said to him, "I'm going to start a blog. I'm going to call it One Mom's Battle," because at the time, I truly felt like I was the only mom in the entire world. There was nothing out there back then on divorcing a narcissist. And so I started this blog with the intention of sharing the link with my dad, my aunt, my friends and family, just so I didn't have to repeat the story of court over and over again. I never intended for my blog to be discovered outside of my close circle. About 6 months after I started my blog, I happened to have the TV on one day, and I never watch TV, never. Um, and it was on in the background as I was working, and it was Matt Lauer interviewing Christy Brinkley. And I didn't really know who she was at the time. Heard of her, but I didn't follow anything. And they started talking about her divorce, and he was just backing her into a corner. And I started to really tune in, and she was getting choked up and teary-eyed, and she said, "I just want peace. That's all I want." And I remember him saying, "Why can't you two just put your differences aside and do what's best for your kids?" And she became even more teary-eyed and choked up, and she said, "Google the term divorcing a narcissist." And I about jumped out of my seat, because back then my blog was one of the only things that was the subtitle was One Mom's Battle, Divorcing a Narcissist. And my little blog that night went from about 40 views a month, 30 of them were probably me, to about 40,000 overnight. And that was the day that my story became public in 2012. And a few days after that, Christy's assistant reached out to me, and I discovered that she had actually been following my blog, and and then was going to start referring people to it. So she started posting my blog on social media, and she invited me down to Los Angeles, to meet with her, which I did. And it was shortly after that I started writing my first book, because I realized what a huge problem this was, and that I was not just one mom. That my story, it's almost like there's this hidden playbook for narcissists somewhere out there that no one's found yet, but they all use the same tactics, the same methods of terrorism. I say, when you're divorcing a narcissist, the day you get your family court case number, you are also assigned your own personal terrorist. That's really how it feels. And so to go from feeling so isolated and alone to having this network worldwide. I mean, I remember getting an email from a lady in Ireland who was just overwhelmed with gratitude, saying, thank you for talking about this. Nobody's talking about this. And that's really how my platform at One Mom's Battle started.
That's amazing. And it truly has, it's changing people's lives. So I have a few more questions for you if you have time.
Sure.
And
Yeah,
then we have a question
absolutely.
in the chat here. Kathy says, Tina, you are so brave and a strong lady. In hindsight, is there anything you would have done differently on your approach?
Yes. Um, I would have chosen my battles very wisely in the beginning. You know, when the narcissist is throwing out accusation after accusation and attacks, before I really understood that that was a feed supply to my ex-husband, I would engage with him. He would say a horrible thing about me. I would sit down at the end of the night and write back 3 paragraphs trying to defend myself. And, you know, that alone is exhausting. Plus, it's like a drug to him when they throw out that line and you grab onto it. And what that does in the court system is it muddies the water. And so the court can't focus on the real issues of, you know, what are the real issues affecting the kids, because there's so many little battles going on. And so, you know, a couple years into my battle, once I started thinking about all of this more strategically, I would ask myself, you know, is this going to truly matter in a year or 3 years? And that was one kind of checklist for myself on choosing my battles wisely. And I would come up with phrases. I call them canned responses, and I have a whole bunch of them on the One Mom's Battle website. But it would be, you know, a way to shut down those accusations. And for one example is, your attempt to portray me in a negative light has been noted. And that is much more effective in court than writing 3 paragraphs to defend yourself. You can shut it down and not engage and be done with it. And so those are some things that I've learned over the years that I wish I would have known back then.
That is so helpful, because like not wanting to engage them. It is so tempting because you feel so.
And it's hard because, you know, for people who pride themselves on their integrity, their honesty, you know, who they are as a person, when you're under attack, our automatic defense is to, you know, try to explain ourselves or try to correct the situation or the assumptions. And the reality is the courts are very focused on a list of things, and most of those don't even come into play.
That's so true. And then the other question, changing topic, I wanted to speak to you about your narc decoder, because that
Yeah.
is so interesting, and it is so true. Like when I read it, I was like looking back on communication, and I was like, that's exactly like I didn't respond. I'm the type of person that is. Conflict averse. Like I try and avoid it at all cost. So when I can see that these just like there's this vomiting of words on a page, I'm like, yeah, I'll just leave that. And when I was reading the narc decoder, it just makes so much sense. So I love how you came up with that, and I would love to share that with everybody.
Yes. It started because I was so triggered by my ex-husband's emails. But then when people would send me the communication from their ex-husband or ex-wife, and you're able to look at it through a lens where you're not triggered, I I started to see patterns, you know, the projection, the attacks, the word salads, twisting reality, delusion. And so I started seeing all of these patterns, that it's all just like there's, I believe, a hidden narcissist playbook. I believe they have their own language somewhere. And so, you know, it was scrubbing it down, taking a message that my ex had sent or their ex had sent, and scrubbing it down and rewriting it to bring humor into it and to see it in a different light. Because one thing that is said about narcissists is they're emotionally stunted somewhere between, Dr. Ramani, I believe, says, I think it's between the ages of 4 and 6. I don't want to misquote her, but I believe it's somewhere in there. And that's really what it feels like. I used to say, I feel like I am communicating with a 6-year-old on an emotional level. And so when you are able, the whole thing with the NARC decoder, it's like this imaginary device that when I get an email from my ex-husband, I imagine putting it into this device and it's smoking and crackling and trying to process the insanity that comes through these messages, and then what it spits out on the other end is what they're really saying. And so they're finding humor wherever you can. Obviously, there's no humor when our kids are being affected or abused in any way, but there's other aspects of this where it can just be funny, and you have to find humor. It is truly the best medicine, wherever you can. And that's really what the NARC decoder was for me and has been for so many other people.
It is, and it does. And when you do actually see the insanity of it, and you look at it from that slightly humorous angle, it makes more sense instead of looking at it and getting completely stressed out about exactly what's going on the page.
Right. You kind of look at it and go, that's really pathetic. Like, you need a hobby or something. If this is where you're being fulfilled is by writing these manifestos. And I can't imagine the time that goes into these emails that a lot of narcissists write. You kind of look at it and it's pathetic. And so seeing it in a different angle is much easier than constantly, when we're triggered, it tells me, for me personally, when I'm triggered by it, that I'm still giving them a lot of power. And so the NARC decoder for me was a way to take my power back and show what it truly is about.
Yeah, that was so enlightening, just to see it, because it is. It's once it's like once you look at something from a different angle, it's completely changed for life, and that's what for me the knock decoder has done.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And that was very much the goal. And so in the NARC decoder in my book, it's not just all of my ex-husband's emails. I took input from people all over the world. So you get to see a wide variety and how similar they all are. It's really enlightening. You kind of, because they've made us believe that they are just so special and so unique, and you begin to realize they're really not. It's just the same old thing in a variety of different humans. So it's an interesting way to look at it.
And it is funny that you say, like, you think somewhere there is this, playbook. I know I've read somewhere, I don't know how true it is, but on the dark web there is a website that says like how to abuse your partner, which is awful.
Is me
Yeah.
at all. And I'm kind of a spy in a lot of Facebook groups that are very like parental rights focused and less about the children. And it's very eye-opening to read strategies and watch a group of people plot and manipulate together. It's just, I think when we look at, if I were ever to look at that and think, oh, okay, I get it, you become part of the problem. You become so desensitized to it. It's sick. And it's very eye-opening to see, that type of person in a group dynamic where they're all working together to manipulate and to abuse. There's a lot of them in the world, unfortunately. And that's where empowering our kids and helping them to tune into their instincts is critical.
And I know you had that exact experience. You found that email from your mother-in-law,
Yeah.
plotting and planning as to how to make him look better in court.
Yeah, it was. I actually found several emails between my ex-mother-in-law and her sister, so his aunt, and he would email them with something he was proposing to send to me, and they would come back and say, well, no, let's spin it this way. And they would rewrite the whole email. And that's where I really came to accept that I was not up against one person. It was an entire team of truly sick people. And you don't realize that evil exists in the world until, to that level, until you've personally lived it.
That's yeah. It's like you don't want to. You don't even want to believe it. You don't want to comprehend it at all. We have TP here saying, Tina, you are so brave. I mean, I appreciate your comments about patterns and explaining how you could look at stepping back. That's a really great way to look at it. Humor is truly a way to deal with it. Since the other person is just trying to pull you into the darkness in the past, they really appreciate your approach.
Oh, thank you very much.
So you've written a few other books. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. Lemonade Life Journal. What's that
Yes.
about?
So that's my children's book, and it's, I'd say, age range 8 to 11, and it's teaching kids, and it's not specific to kids who have narcissistic parents. It's kids who are going through any difficult thing in life. It could be a pandemic, it could be divorce in general, a loss of a family member. I have this very much lemon to lemonade theme in life, and I believe, that was very much who I was as a child, where I was able to find the positives. And so it's helping children to process things that they're going through that are difficult. Um, Not handing them rose colored glasses and saying, you need to find the positives in this. It's not, just about that, but it opens up conversations and helps them really hone in on resilience. And it can be a traveling journal that they can take back and forth to their therapist. I've heard a lot of feedback from parents who their child can't wait to go show their therapist what they've written, or work on it with their therapist. I hear a lot of that. And so, we need to teach our kids to be little lemonade makers, because this journey, just like it's not easy for adults, a child going through this, they don't have the life skills, they don't have the toolboxes. And, for many of us in the courts system, we're under a microscope, and we have to be really careful about what we say to our kids, so it's not flipped around, and we don't ever want to be in a position where we're bad mouthing the other parent. So letting our child work through these things in a journal or with a therapist can be really helpful.
That's great. That's so wonderful. It really does help you empower your child. I want to just go over your other books. So you also have Advice from the Battlefield, Divorcing a Narcissist. And what's the difference between Advice from the Battlefield and One Mom's Battle?
So, One Mom's Battle is my personal story. It's my entire family court case, from start to finish, mapped out. All of the trials and tribulations, the victories, and so that's my story. Advice from the Battlefield, I basically took almost every topic I could think of that was relevant to this type of divorce, and I put it out there for my community, on One Mom's Battle, for input, on this topic. What are your best pieces of advice? And then I pulled the top pieces of advice, and there's 5 for each topic, that have been shared by my followers or myself or family court professionals who weighed in on the topics. And so it's very much advice from the battlefield, which it's probably one of my best sellers out of all of my books. And there's a lot of really good info in there.
I'm sure that's priceless, actually. And then you're rebuilding.
Yes. So rebuilding after the storm, it's really for anyone, no matter what part of the battle you're in, even if you're still in the thick of it. I use the analogy of a house that has been completely destroyed by a storm, which is kind of how I felt by the end of my marriage. And so it starts with examining our foundation. Where are the cracks from our family of origin or our own life experiences, and then literally rebuilding yourself, every aspect of your life from the ground up, and building yourself up to be stronger and indestructible, for any other storms that come into your life.
It's beautiful. It truly is beautiful. And also, you're now, I know you have a coaching business and you help other women through this. So I want you to be able to talk a little bit about that, and then also let people know where they can get in contact with you.
Absolutely. So in 2014, when my battle was coming to its one of its big ends, and my kids were finally safe, I started just working with other moms who were going through this and helping to think of things with a strategy mindset, because it's critical. And that evolved to, I left my career in PR and marketing. I went full time into divorce coaching, and specifically high conflict divorce coaching. This past year, the need and the demand has been so great that I actually started a coach training program, which is the High Conflict Divorce Coach Certification Program. And now, prior, I didn't have anyone to refer to when my schedule was full or booked out months in advance. And now I have this group of amazing coaches who have trained under me, trained under experts in every field, psychology, law, mediation, all types of fields. And I brought them all together under one virtual roof. And so it's a whole bunch of instructors in an online program. And I'm developing this powerhouse database of coaches who are qualified to help people go through this battle.
That is truly amazing. I think attorneys and psychologists should be going through that, because so many of them are not equipped to deal with this, or to deal with the intricacies that come with this kind of a situation.
Right. And we actually do have therapists and attorneys. We've had two attorneys come into the program as students, which is heartwarming for me because it is so needed for professionals in the system to really get it at this level. And so it's been one of the most exciting aspects of my journey in my career is to develop this program and empower others.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's so important. I just was thinking now. I have a friend who went to see a therapist, though she was still married at the time, and contemplating leaving him. And she went to the therapist with a hand mark on her neck from being strangled. And the therapist thought it would be a really good idea that she tried and worked a little bit harder at her marriage.
I have a heart. Someone like that shouldn't be practicing. And you think, that's one story that's come out of that therapist's office.
Yeah.
How many others have, and beyond that, beyond the psychological damage that can do to a victim of abuse, the danger that she's putting people in by giving that type of advice, it makes me cringe.
Because it's terrible, and I know that also, like, people feel that their therapists and their attorneys are continuing that cycle of abuse. So they go and seek help, and then these people are continuing to just abuse them, or they feel like that they are being abused, which they probably, yeah.
Absolutely. And one of the common comments that I hear from my clients when they've met with their attorney, or even the courts, anybody in the court system, is, you married this person. It's not our job or not our problem to fix. And, I don't know if you could be more direct in victim blaming, but, I'll tell you, I have yet to meet a single person who signs up to be the victim of abuse. And abuse is such a slow process, if you would have even asked me at year 4 of my marriage, I would not have described myself as a victim of abuse. It took a therapist who was very skilled, and an attorney later on who said, you know, did he ever block you in doorways? Did he ever grab your wrist? And yeah. And he said, well, that's physical abuse. And so there's just, you know, and one of the things I learned last year, we started pulling together research on the domestic violence training that judges need. And there are most states, judges sitting on the family court bench need 0 hours of training. And the states that do have training for judges, it's the 101 version. My 16-year-old daughter could teach a more complex course on domestic violence. And so we're failing, you know, our kids, our generations to come, by not having trauma informed professionals in this world of family court.
That is so devastating to hear that, because it is. It's just, it's like, as a partner in that situation, and you're able to learn, or you can try and heal yourself, and there's always going to be that trauma that you recover. But as a child, they're not able to make those choices. This is what they've been given, and how do they unlearn that without the protection of the court system, or someone looking out for them?
Right. No, and it's hard. And I get a lot of comments from people who say, you know, I read these stories about the family court and I'd rather just stay in the relationship than walk that path, because I can't imagine my child ever being alone with that person. And it's sad that, you know, when people start to research the court system, that's the decision that they're considering making, is staying in an abusive situation because they have 0 faith that their child will be protected. What a broken world we live in when that's your option.
Yeah, I had the same. Someone said the same thing to me last week, which is so devastating. Bettina, I wanted to also ask you: can you explain for our viewers the cycle of abuse?
So, well, what we know about domestic violence in general is that it's about power and control. And then I actually created a wheel called the post-separation abuse wheel, and it's actually available. You can just go to postseparationabuse.com, and it's basically the playbook of the narcissist in family court. It's isolating the victim, just like we learn about isolation during domestic violence. Isolation post separation becomes smear campaigns. It becomes, you know, planting seeds maybe with your child's therapist that you are mentally unstable, or, you know, they can pretend to be the good guy. You know, I'm really worried about her right now mentally, you know, there have been some things off. Planting seeds of doubt in your social capital. And a lot of times that smear campaign starts well before the relationship ends. They're very strategic in nature. Discarding the kids. What we know about narcissists is they fight for 50-50 custody because they know that's the way to hurt you. It's an image card for them, so they can go around bragging that they have 50-50 custody, and also for financial purposes. But the reality is, as soon as they secure that type of arrangement, they discard the kids. They're either leaving them with their mom, their new feed supply, or in childcare when you're available to care for your kids. Legal abuse is one of the spokes on the wheel. It's using the court as the new platform of abuse. Financial abuse, they would rather, you know, gamble their money in Las Vegas than ensure that their kids have food on the table. So there's so many different aspects to post-separation abuse. It's the emails that I receive from people who download the wheel, or even from domestic violence agencies, it's kind of the same descriptor time and time again. This is my life. This is the exact playbook that I've been living for 5 years, 6 years, whatever it is. And so educating ourselves on that so we can be prepared, and, versus just operating in the fog and never knowing what's going to hit us. So we can go, okay, no, I know what this is what it's called, and here's how I deal with it, or this is how I empower my kids to ensure that they aren't harmed, as we want our kids, our goal is to protect them and keep them, as unscathed as humanly possible in this battle.
That's what everyone wants, to just protect their kids. So Tina, I also wanted to ask you, looking back now at your time, this horrific time that you've experienced, when did you feel that you had reached a place where you were kind of at peace and on a path to healing?
It's once my kids were safe, that was a huge milestone. Once I could, I remember the day the judge said, daytime visits only. I want Miss Swithin to be able to go to sleep at night knowing where her children are. They'll be in their own beds. And that, because I had operated in fight or flight mode for so long, desperate to protect them, that was a huge turning point for me personally, where I was able to start focusing on my healing journey. EMDR has been incredibly helpful for me, education on this topic. And there's a fine line with that. There's a difference between educating yourself on narcissistic abuse and post-separation abuse and all of these categories, and being consumed by it. And only when you've reached that limit. I see people where, they have all of the education they need to start their healing journey, but then they are so deep in this world of the understanding it that it becomes a way of life for them. Even for me working in this industry, I have to have such firm boundaries on, I'm clocking out now. This is, I need to go on and enjoy life and the light in the world. Education on what I was dealing with was critical. Making sense of it, for me, writing has been so cathartic and a way for me to purge it and let go of it. So writing my books, I told my therapist, I love you and you're wonderful, but writing that first book, even if I hadn't published it, was better than 3 years of therapy, because it was just a way to release it, to read it, to understand it from start to finish, and connect all the dots and see how it happened. I'll tell you, another huge part of my journey has been, and I hesitate to say this sometimes because I don't want it to come across as victim blaming, but for me personally, it was going back and looking at the red flags that were waving, bright red flags, and I ignored, because I do tend to look for the best in people. And so really going back and examining my role in that, and where I should have leaned in a little bit more so that I don't make those same errors going forward in any relationships in my life. That was a really big part. And in my book, One Mom's Battle, Divorcing a Narcissist, One Mom's Battle, that's one of the things I share, is breaking down the red flags one by one through the dating, through the marriage, all of it, and seeing the big picture.
That's so true. They're bringing up the red flag thing. I love that in your book, actually, because it does, because you try to see the best in a person, number one, or it's like a little thing that happens here and a little thing that happens here, and you're not connecting those two small things together to make something big. So you make an excuse for that small thing, and then you put it away. You don't even think about it again, and then there's an excuse for the second thing, and then you just start making all these excuses. And you don't
Yes.
even realize how many you're making because once you've made the excuse, you forget about it.
Right. And I know in my, going back to when I was dating this person, he came in and the love bombing and the Prince Charming, and coming from a broken family, he became everything. He became my band-aid in a lot of areas. And I had talked him up to people because I believed that's really who he was, that this is what it's like to date a real man, and that my Prince Charming has arrived, and it's straight out of a fairy tale. And so when you've talked this person up and made them into this larger than life, but you believe it's real, and then the little things start to creep in, you overlook them and you don't want to share with somebody because you're like, I have them up here on this pedestal and how great they are. And so I can't bring up this little thing because then I start to sound like I'm nitpicky, or it's a really interesting dynamic to go back and pick apart and dissect.
I think that's a really good thing to do, actually, though, because then you're aware of it and you're not it brings it all into the light.
Right.
Yeah. So Tina, it's been such a privilege to speak to you today, and I'm so happy that you've given us this time on this topic. I love to ask all my guests this because I like to always finish on a high note. What are you most excited about in life right now?
Change in the family court system. I'm partnering with several people who I really believe can make a difference, and it gives me such hope. And we all know that whenever we're going through any dark times, it's clinging to that hope. And so, yeah, that's what I'm really looking forward to, is shifting my focus towards advocacy and making those changes that are so needed.
That is so, so wonderful. It's like I've got chills to know that. It's just, yeah, that is amazing. So we will definitely be speaking more.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much. And yeah, so just have a wonderful day, and we'll speak soon.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. So isn't that so amazing, guys? That is just the incredible Tina Swithin. She has been with us today and spent so much time speaking about her journey and where she has come from and where she's going. So that has been a privilege for me to bring that information to you. So definitely go and check out some of her books are in the carousel. So go and have a look at that, and we will do a little look into our carousel and see what other things we can explore together. And we'll look at her. Why don't we start with looking at her books here? Because there are a few of them that are so great. So it's the Narc Decoder. It's Understanding the Language of a Narcissist. So have a read at that. It's is a little bit of a lighter read when you come to it, and as I was saying earlier, is that you can really change your perspective of it and start to look at it instead of from the eyes of confused receiver, as someone that is taking a step back and looking at it like you are reading a foreign language, and all you need to do is interpret it. So take a look at that one. And then Divorcing a Narcissist, Advice from the Battlefield, as Tina explained. This is information that she gathered from everybody, from people who are viewing her blog, from experts, and she put it all together in a book. So that is wonderful to hear. And then Rebuilding After the Storm is the pathway to healing and to finding your own solid self again. So that's a good one. And then this Lemonade Life Journal for Kids, managing life's lessons and getting through those challenging times as a child. This just gives them some hope and ways to deal with it. So yes, we had Tina Swithin with us today. So let's sway into our carousel and see what other products we can explore and discover together as we move through this wonderful day here. It's Thursday, we're on Sway TV and we are going to have fun. Remember, we are going to be live at the Amazon store tomorrow from 8:40 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a few hosts there, and it's our Prime Day preview live on location. First Amazon streamer to be live on location, so that is great. And you know, we are doing the PS5 giveaway for Prime Day. So text Sway to 866-664-1283 so you never miss a giveaway. It's going to be a lot of fun. So let's see what else we can look at as we sway through our day and our time. So let's see here what products we can try and get through before the end of our time together. So let's take a look at this Aero Garden that is doing so wonderfully well. So there you go. That is it. That is the Aero Garden. So yes, we are here on Sway TV on Amazon Live, and we are swaying through our carousel. We just had a great guest, Tina Swithin, with us this morning, and if you want to go and check out that replay, you will need to go to swaytv.com, and that's where you will find it a little later today. So yes, just keep staying with us as we sway through our time and through our day. So I mean, there are just so many great things in our carousel that I want to share with you, as well as Tina's books. We have those in the carousel too. So go and explore and discover and see what you love about it. So let's take a look here. This is the Cricut. We have been making all these cool things for Prime Day. I mean, check that out. Isn't that so awesome? So let's take a look at this and see why we love it.
When you create with Cricut, you're not just making something new, you're also creating a one-of-a-kind celebration full of surprise. A new houseplant that even I can keep alive. A small business out of a DIY hobby. A space for love and a happy place to wipe your feet. Something for work from home and when it's just home. And even your own sanity. Because with Cricut, what you make makes you, and in turn makes the world around you. So whether it's the scary times or the you're about to be stuck with me for lifetimes, make every time with Cricut.
How cool. Yes, that is the Cricut. That is what we've been busy making all these great Prime Day things for, and having fun as we do that. Isn't that so awesome? There are tons of products. Well, there are actually only 40 products in our carousel, but all of them are great. Good for you to explore and discover them And we'll get into it. Let's take a look at our carousel today, actually, and see what is in there and what we are going to be sharing with you on this wonderful day here at Sway, as we sway through our day. But remember, we are going live tomorrow from the store here in Beverly Hills. It's going to be so much fun. So that will be happening tomorrow at 8:40 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And who knows? Always expect the unexpected, and this is Sway TV, and we are going to have a lot of fun as we sway through that day and get ready for Prime Day. It's happening on Sunday, Monday morning, early hours of Monday morning at 12:01 a.m. On Monday, we will be with you and start Prime Day at that time, and we'll go right through until Prime Day ends, and it ends at 11:59 p.m. on Tuesday evening, the 22nd. Isn't that so cool? We are here exploring all of these products as we sway through our day and through our time. So let's take a look at our carousel today. We have the Aero Garden. We have this wonderful herbs because of the Aero Garden, and we just looked at that lovely presentation from Cricket, and the Yeti mic, great for streaming, podcasts, all of that good stuff when you want to be communicating with everybody online. The Neck Tech foot massager with heat. How cool is that? Oh my goodness, and I completely forgot to mention it is Father's Day on Sunday, so these are some great last minute gifts that you could get in time to the Keurig coffee maker. Keurig has revolutionized the way that we make coffee, and they have done it again with this Keurig Supreme. There's 5 holes puncture, a 5-hole puncture into the pod, so it allows the coffee to fill up with water a lot faster, and then it drains out slower, getting in more full flavor. The massage gun for athletes when you have that really little nagging pain, you just want to get rid of it, the targeted spot, getting into that area, releasing tension, keeping your body feeling free and wonderful. The Levoit air purifier, keeping your air pure and clean, allergen free. The Yasuda bike, it is a great way to stay in shape and work out with all our hosts here at Sway TV. And we have the Jackery portable power station. Isn't that so cool? Keeping you powered up as you move around and go around, and or just be disaster preparedness, camping, RVing, disaster preparedness. The Jackery is definitely the way to go. The PlayStations, of course. We are doing the PS5 challenge, and that begins on Sunday. And the Xterra folding treadmill, isn't that cool? Folding a treadmill, I think that is so pretty cool. Let's actually take a look at this video, and we will come back here. That is, I can't believe that the treadmill folds. So let's check this out. So yeah, can you believe it? It folds away. That is pretty cool. Then we have the Flybird weight bench, keeping your body strong and fit. The Blue Air purifier. One of the reasons I love this purifier, besides that it works completely into the aesthetic of it, is that you're able to change the color of it. It's just a sock that fits over it, and you can update it and change it. Ours here at Sway TV is obviously Sway Blue. The Food Saver vacuum sealer. This is so awesome. Save your food 5 times longer, so therefore saving money and time. Don't have to go to the grocery store as much. You can just you don't have to go to the grocery store as much, and you'll save money because you're not throwing food away. So that is great. This Ninja Professional Blender, so cool. It also has Blend IQ technology, which is amazing. I got to use it last week, and you put it on, it does it, it pulses, it blends exactly what you want, and it also has the single serve, which is great. So you just want to make a mini smoothie. Oh, the other thing I love about this blender is it has a 3-level blade. So most blenders just have the blade at the bottom, and they're pulling all the ingredients down into the bottom. This does not. It cuts the ingredients all the way up the top, which is so cool. The Ninja Air Fryer crisps, dehydrates. That's all of those things I love. Making dehydrated vegetables and fruit, healthy snacks, and great. I love my air fryer actually. And of course the Sun Ninja pop-up beach tent, keeping you protected in the sun and in the when you are out enjoying this beautiful summer that we are in. It's wonderful, magnificent weather. Get to enjoy it and go outdoors. The Black & Decker cordless sweeper and trimmer. Yeah, you know, we are spending so much time outdoors. Keep it looking beautiful, and these are the ways that you get to do that. The Cuisinart coffee maker, the HP OfficeJet printer, the Waze outdoor security camera. So as you are exploring the world and having fun and enjoying the summer, make sure your home is safe too. So using these security cameras set up in seconds. The Cloud Shiatsu foot massager, the Naipo Shiatsu back and neck massager. It is so wonderful. It feels like a needling massage. The Hoover Power Dash pet carpet cleaner. That is awesome. It's a deep clean into your carpets. The iRobot Roomba. You know how cool. Love the concept of this, that you get to press a button, walk away, and cleans your home while you can do something else. Enjoy Sway TV. Listen to all the content that we have here. The Oral-B electric toothbrush, the Philips Sonic Care, the Germ Guardian air purifier, the Bose noise cancelling headphones. So wonderful. Use them when you want to block out the noise, or even when you're just at home and you want to concentrate on something. Great for meditation. That's what I love using them for. Is I use them when I meditate, put on my headphones, and I just completely can go into my own world with very little distraction, which is wonderul. It's what you want when you're meditating. And then, of course, the Fitbit, track your fitness. If you want to know where you are heading, you have to know where you are. So you can see where you're excelling and where you need to improve. So that is a great way to do it. The Bowflex Kettlebell series, the Sunny Health and Fitness Squat and Assist Row, the Breville Espresso Machine. So wonderful. Get completely into the art of making coffee and just enjoying it. The knowing exactly what beans and how they roasted and what they did. It's so fantastic to do that, and it is a beautiful, beautiful looking machine. And then, of course, we have the Lenovo Chromebook. Stay connected, and it's so cool that it folds like that. It's completely, such a wonderful. I mean, technology is pretty amazing, and it gets to do all of these things. So let's see. And then, yes, we had Tina Swithin with us earlier today. So wonderful that she gave us so much time talking about this very seldom spoken about topic, high conflict divorce and divorcing a narcissist. Go and check out her blog and website with all the resources on it, One Mom's Battle. These are these are some of her books that she has written. This is Divorcing a Narcissist, One Mom's Battle. It is her story, all the trials and tribulations that she has gone through. And then Divorcing a Narcissist, Advice from the Battlefield. This is where she gives advice, and it is this book has been, I suppose, written with the input of experts and other people going through a similar circumstance. And then the NARC Decoder, Understanding the Language of a Narcissist. This is a wonderful way to look at their communication and how they try to bamboozle you and tranquilize you as they communicate with you. So highly recommend it. And if you want to go and see that interview with her, please go to swaytv.com, and that's where you'll find the replays, live streams of podcasts, shopping, featured videos, and so much more. So let's just go back over our carousel quickly one more time so you can see everything that is in it and see if there's anything you love and cannot do without. So it's the NARC Decoder, Understanding the Language of the Narcissist by Tina Swithin. Divorcing a Narcissist, Advice from the Battlefield. Divorcing a Narcissist, One Mom's Battle. The Lenovo Chromebook. The Breville Espresso Machine, Be Your Own Barista at Home. The Sunny Health and Fitness Squat and Assist Row Trainer. Get that amazing lower body thanks to this. The Bowflex Kettlebell Series. The Fitbit Track Your Fitness, Track Your Health. Bose Noise Cancelling Headphones. The Germ Guard Air Purifier. The Philips Sonic Care Toothbrush, the Oral-B Pro 7000 Smart Series Electric Toothbrush, and the iRobot Roomba, the Hoover Power Dash Pet Carpet Cleaner, the Naipo Shiatsu Back and Neck Massager, the Cloud Massager. This is a compression massage. It's great for increased circulation and getting deep blood flow. The Waze Outdoor Security Camera. The HP Office Jet Pro All-in-One Wireless Printer. The Cuisinart Perfect Temp Coffee Maker. Black & Decker Cordless Sweeper and Trimmer. How cool is that? And the Sun Ninja Pop-Up Beach Tent, the Ninja Air Fryer, Crisper Cooker Dehydrator, so much more. The Ninja Countertop Professional Blender. As I said, this is really cool. We actually did a little showcase of it about a week ago, so go back to swaytv.com and you will see it there. And this is great because it has the 3 levels of blade. I find that is a very clever design. The Food Saver Vacuum Sealer. Food lasts 5 times longer when it is sealed like this. So save money and less time to the grocery store. So save time as well because you'll be running to the grocery store less. And the Blue Air Air Purifier. The Flybird Weight Bench. The Xterra Folding Treadmill. Can you believe it? I think that's an incredible feature that it folds away. The PlayStation. Yes, we are giving away a PlayStation. Again, can you imagine that? So all you need to do to get involved with that and get notified of when that giveaway is beginning, because we're doing it for Prime Day, is text SWAY to 866-664-1283 and never miss a giveaway. The Jackery Portable Power Station. Stay connected, stay powered, stay connected to Sway all the time, or just be disaster prepared and have it there charged in your garage or somewhere safe, so you'll always have power. The Yasuda cycling, indoor cycling bike, stationary bike. I know Tammy always comments about the seat. I have not ridden this bike, and she says the seat is so comfortable. She's ridden it for hours. So, and there's the Levoit air purifier. I like that this one has a night light, so it's like a 2-in-1. And massage gun, great for getting in those targeted areas, releasing tension as it begins in your body, so you can live pain-free and happy and healthy. The Keurig K Supreme, it's the coffee maker, and it's wonderful. You have coffee at the touch of a button. You can have your coffee shop coffee in your home. The NetTech foot massager with heat. It's like a shiatsu needling massage on your feet. That is so great. You can put it under your desk as you are working away or while you're watching TV. This is so cool. Or, most important time when you're watching Sway, the Blue Yeti mic. Great for streaming, connecting with people around the world, recording. This is a wonderful mic to be able to do all of that. The Cricut Air. This is how we have got to make all these wonderful designs here at Sway. So yes, it is Prime Day, starting on midnight on Monday morning. It's 12:01 a.m. or 12 a.m. on Monday morning, June 21st. You get to use it and sway through the time together with us at Sway. We will be live when Prime Day begins, finding deals, looking for fun things. It's going to be awesome. So you definitely want to stay with us as we do that. And of course, the Aero Garden. And yes, we will be live from the Amazon store tomorrow. Isn't that so very cool? So many wonderful things that always happen here at Sway as we sway through our day and through our time. Let's see some fun things that we can share with you as we sway through the rest of our time together. So yes, there'll be another full day here at Sway TV. All of our hosts are going to be coming and sharing all of their knowledge and information with you. Isn't this a great... This is so wonderful. Look at these people, and they are so passionate, dedicated, and experts in their field, and they come and share all of that information with you, and it's fun too. So much fun is had. We have Kimmy's Love Hub. Kimmy is a dating strategist, an image consultant, and therapist, all wrapped up in one, helping you put your best foot forward. Sally's Book Club. Sally's an avid reader. She wants to share all of that information with you. She highlights a book and interviews the author every week. Isn't that so cool? Pets Today with Lisa Artura, Conversations with Candace. Candace is up just before me, and with also another great guest. So cool. The Ab Lab with Kathy, working out with you and staying strong and healthy. It's a Vibe with Shayla. She's our fitness coach here, making sure that you stick to your health and fitness goals. Mind, Body, Spirit with Dr. Kate. She is the holistic biohacker. Love that. It's just a holistic biohacker, really looking at natural whole ways to heal and hack your body. The Art of Parenting with Marissa. Oh my goodness, did you see Marissa and Jade cooking last night? That was so cool. You've got to go back to swaytv.com and click on that replay. They were out there in the kitchen making steak and roasted pineapple and vegetables. Oh my goodness, I wish I was here to enjoy all of that yummy food with them, and they made it so fun. So yes, go and check that out. Marissa's also a parenting coach, and she shares all of that with you. She helps you sway through your time as a parent and sway through the challenging times and get more juice out of those wonderful times. On the Go with Tambi. Tambi is just full of energy and on the go. She'll actually be up a little later today, I think at about 1:10 Pacific Standard Time. And it's going to be just another full awesome day. Tamby and Marissa and Candace and Sally will all be at the store with me tomorrow as we get ready for Prime Day and do our Sway live on location at the Beverly Hills Amazon store. And then the Christina collection and Navigating Life with Michelle Mitchell. Michelle is a life coach. She is helping you sway through your day and master your mind, because once you have done that, you can master anything. Also, she had a wonderful guest yesterday on her show, so you want to have a look at that. That's swaytv.com. It's where you will find it all: our live streams, our podcasts, our replays, our featured videos, and so much more. And of course, always the shopping and our merchandise. Isn't that so awesome? All of the stuff, and it's always ever growing and always changing. So that's why you want to keep looking out for what new things we have. Oh, actually, I have one of those new things right here in front of us. It is the Sway TV water bottle. Isn't that so cool? How awesome is that? We can have a little look at that. This is fabulous. So yes, as we sway through our day and through our time, you definitely want to do that. Well, yes, so here, one of our newest additions to our Sway TV store are the water bottles. We have two of them here. We have the beach towels, the bucket hats, the leggings. I mean, those are just so many cool things. So I mean, this is so awesome to be able to share all of this with you here. Oh shoot, as we sway through our day. I accidentally ended the stream, Alex.
Really?
Yes.
Well, it's about to be 11 anyway.
I know, I was like getting ready to play the outro, and when I moved my hand, I clicked end.
Oh.
Oh, that was so silly. Anyway.
Okay, we're ordering Chinese.
Oh, okay.
I have the menu open here, or if you know what you like. Like a sauteed mixed vegetables in a light, mild sauce. But can you have sauce? Teriyaki vegetables.
So that's teriyaki vegetable.
Okay. Okay, I have to wait 3 minutes and then I can order it.
That was so stupid.
At least it was like the end.
And it was right at the end. I went it was like over here, and I went like that, and I brushed the foot, and I knocked exactly on the end.
Oh.
I got it. It just popped. I love it. But and I just figured Oh, wow. Look at that. Okay. So,
Right. So, let's
it
see.
was Tanya's birthday the other day. We went out to dinner.
Oh, so much fun.
Yeah.
50th birthday, right?
Huh?
50th, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I don't, we have any of my products here? Any of my doggy stuff?
So on the mantle of the fireplace.
On the mantle of the fireplace.
And the collar